Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Poor Artist podcast. This is an Older Dream production. This is week 2 of us just chilling, talking, getting the opportunity to talk to some of our favorite creatives and community members, and just talk about this philosophy of being a poor artist. Joe is gonna kick us off with a grounding moment.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna breathe in through our nose and exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Thinking of any ancestors that we want to bring into this space. We're going to continue to maintain our breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. It may be just saying those ancestors that we might have thought about. Whitney Houston comes to mind.
James Baldwin.
Nipsey Hussle.
Oh, Shay.
Alrighty. We're gonna do some introductions. So let's have our guests introduce themselves first. So Tyra.
Peace, everyone. Hi, I am Tyra. I am with the Rich Juice Bar down in Cherry Hill, and I am an artist in my own way. I have a background in film, and so being here today, I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited just to be invited. So thank you all for inviting me.
Are we back? Technology is so great.
I'll be patient with it. That's all.
Yeah, I missed
Yes,
everything
we're
that
back.
you
We're back.
said. Okay.
You're on. You're on now.
Oh, I would love to reintroduce myself.
Yes.
Peace again, family. I am Tyra. I am here from the Rich Juice Bar down in Cherry Hill. And I am excited to be on this podcast today. Thank you for inviting me, Joe and B. I am an artist in my own right. I have history in film and acting. And I also write. So just being here to be able to support the conversation and just push the narrative, I'm excited. So it's my honor. Thank you.
We love it. Joe, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Joseph Tynes. I'm a musician and free jazz artist. I enjoy creating using acrylic and oil painting. That's who I am.
And I'm Bridgette. I am a playwright, a producer, a poet, sometimes photography. I do dramaturgy. It's a lot of things that I do. So it's really exciting to be here with y'all. I want to set the kind of conversation. We're just kind of chilling. We're like allowing ourselves to really just, take in the information. So like the 6 weeks that we're doing this podcast, we're really kind of looking at the idea of being a poor artist. So like last week we talked about where do we get this mindset of like the struggling artist and the poor artist, and who told us that? And so it was a good conversation with Brianna and Jackson around, sometimes we heard that from our parents, sometimes we heard it from family members or educational people, our mentors, saying that artist wasn't a livable um, way of life, and how that is in conflict with who we are as creatives. And so for me, I think that knowing about that landscape and that baseline is kind of where we're defining poverty, in terms of a legal system of thought and lack of resources, which Older Dream is here to be a resource center and connecting people to be able to get to create. So the conversation this week is about like, well, if we're thinking about poverty as a whole, as the ecosystem of like the arts industry, right? The mindsets of it, the lack of resources and funding, then let's talk about the numbers. So that's what this week is about, like talking about the numbers. And so I'm going to kind of guide the conversation a little bit and like talk about some things. Our guest was prompted with some survey statistics and things like that come together, and we're going to look naturally at some numbers and kind of talk about like how does that land. um, and I think, of course, a good starting place is looking at the pandemic. And there were some surveys that came out, particularly in Oregon. And there was one other place where some of these surveys came out in which, we have some pretty big alarming statistics around how the pandemic affected artists. And I would argue that it was probably things that were already affecting artists before the pandemic, but it was what the pandemic kind of exposed, for the arts industry. So one statistic we have is artists are 3.5 times more likely than other workers to be self-employed. Um, this is due to artists needing the job flexibility that allows them to produce their work. They are less likely than other workers to have a full-time employment. Um, Hold on, let me let the plane pass by. Which usually like partly accounts for the annual median incomes being lower than those with same education levels. So this is like if you and the counterpart got a both got a bachelor's degree, coming out of a school system, probably a public arts institution, you probably would still be making less than the median income of that counterpart if you're working in the arts industry. Um, and then another fact, we're just going to get started. I got two more facts just to get started the conversation. A 2021 fact sheet generated by the Americans for the Arts reported that in Oregon, 64% of unemployed as of July 2020. And then, of course, in that survey, there was another survey around this, like only 8% of those respondents out of like 381 said they earned their entire living income from their art practice. And another 43% of them were working part-time in gigs. So yeah, so like, those are a lot of information that's happening right now. But like for y'all, what is that telling y'all about like just looking at the general landscape of the poverty of the arts ecosystem? What are your initial thoughts hearing those statistics?
It looks like for me, you know, most folk would have to find a lot of balance if they want to be successful and be sustained and have sustainability in their lives. And that you think about having to choose. And I remember when I was in college and having to or needing or wanting to work, make just some extra money, and having to decide if I was gonna be hardcore focused on my studies, right? And so it's similar. It's similar to this. It's like, so just them having balance, and most artists are more passionate about their gifts and their passions. So most of them will more likely be self-employed because they want to have day-to-day work that looks closer aligned to their art and their gifts, or they want to be 100% or close to that in their gifts as possible. Um, so in terms of employment, I could see that how a lot of artists are one, self-employed, or either, lack of employment, because it's hard to choose and have to find balance in choosing my passions, my gifts. This is what I want to do, and surviving and having, maintaining your sustainability within your day-to-day life.
Joe, do you have any thoughts?
I'm thinking about. I'm just thinking about those numbers. The self-employed. Um, it's a stark contrast, and just being able to work in that environment. It's a matter of like you have to be very skilled to be able to remain diligent and remain focused in order to get what you need done so that you can achieve your own sets of milestones, and even being able to determine like what is a milestone for you. It's like those numbers attribute to that. So
And I also
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just also hear as Joe speaking, um, just as those numbers are steadily increasing, and that, like it says, just partially accounts for the media income, right? Yeah.
It's when they talk about having just like multiple jobs, like part-time jobs and gigs. I wonder how many jobs have y'all had at one time?
That
How
is
many jobs have
funny.
you had at one time?
I always say like one job is for one person, so I've only had one. But if you account for like my hustles, and when I mean job, I strategically mean um, job working for someone else other than myself, right? But if you account for like my side hustles and my own me working on my businesses, I've only held one job at a time. I've only held one job at a time. What about you, Joe? How many have you juggled? Oh, 8 or 9. So then now, is that including like your side hustles? Because in my mind, I'm thinking about just like jobs where I may like have to go to an office or work for an organization as and an institution. But if we're including our business, our personal business outside of our, let's say, 9 to 5, or an organization that has hired us, I'll say three. So
yeah,
1 to 3,
mine is like 2 or 3.
8 to 9 is wild.
8 and 9
Yeah,
is
I
crazy.
definitely think I had 3, but it was to the point where I was working like 7 days a week. I never had a day off. So like,
Yeah.
I worked at a theater company that had shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. So I would work my full time job like a 8 to 5, go downtown, work that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays from like 6 to 9:30 or 10, and then Friday through Sunday I worked a third job, either right after work or like I would do 2 shift days on a Sunday at this museum. So like I never had a break. I basically worked 7 days a week at one point. Yeah. So
And I'm thinking
as
about,
soon as they were like,
yeah,
yeah, holding multiple, and then one point I did was doing all 3 of those things, and I drove for Uber at one point. That was like a 3 month life that I had.
man, I don't know what it's like. But I wonder for like artists, how does it feel? Because some artists I could imagine feel forced into self-employment because the jobs that they qualify for or they're eligible for or that fits their lifestyle, right? It doesn't accommodate them reaching their passion, making time to write, making time to get in the studio, making time to paint, making time to study and do research. So you're sort of forced into, you sort of choose self-employment by way because you think or you feel that it's easier for you to just kind of like hustle and bustle and hey, I can cook, I can sell dinners, I can do hair, I can, like make beats or whatever, right, for folk, while I get my money up so I can do these things. And think about how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, the disciplines that it takes, the structure that it takes, the knowledge, the support that it takes to be an entrepreneur. And if folk are not, if they're not equipped with these specific skill sets, can they be successful even maintaining basic sustainability to even maximize their craft? So you're talking about like levels to this, right? Which is why these numbers um, are what they are and look like what they look like. And then I'm thinking about it like, man, how does a young man that's passionate about music, his music, but he's been incarcerated and got himself a record? How does he get music? What does he do for money? And then it's like, we have this stigma around what can we make money from, and we only gonna take certain jobs to pay us certain amounts of money, right? Because we have this thing about who we are. So if this job doesn't fit who I am and fit me and my image, it's almost like, hey, that's checked off my list. And we are the hardest freaking people. I do agree with that. But I wonder about some of the barriers that these artists face. And strategically looking at these things and seeing what are some of the reasons why these numbers look these numbers are wild. And when you, because I didn't know, like having the statistics in front of me, like on paper, seeing it, it's different from just us having like basic conversations or us just getting information off social media or blog sites or things like that, internet sources. When you see these fact sheets that have been generated by um, um, professionals and reports and artists, is like, wow. And it gives you a certain level, gives me a certain level of like just empathy, and you want to like take supporting artists in all craft, right, really serious. So yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, it was definitely, I followed the Americans for the Arts. Hold on. You have the studio hub right by the airport. Um so some of the Americans for the Arts has like some really good surveys and reports. Like they have like an arts impact report that I read sometimes. They have, which I looked at today. They actually updated and has like a spin wheel, so you can look at different case studies based on like workforce development, um, livability, subject matters, and you can figure out all the different case studies and reports that they have gathered based on the topic. So that was pretty cool. But it made me think of, let's talk about money, of course. Like when we're talking about, okay, we're talking about people having more jobs. When I majored in theater in undergrad, and one of the things I remember being trained and talking about how we can always transfer our skills to other industries. So even when, someone put in the comments like we are the hardest working people, is because for some of us as creatives having to be trained to transfer our skills and say, well, I'm a producer, so that means I can project manage. I'm a actor, so that means I can be interpersonal and have great communication skills. I am, because I'm an actor or performer, I can be public speaking, or if I did graphics for the theater, then that means I can be marketing and communications for, any type of institution, and knowing how to have strategic, plans and goals. You have to make a budget for a show, you can be finance for somebody, like the number of like skills that you have to like transfer in, which goes into this next like, so I want to know your thoughts about that, the transferable skills, but also just thinking about like this one survey that we had pulled up, like 81% of the respondents said that they make less than $60,000 from their annual income. But we have like all these skills that we can transfer, and a lot of people are making under $60,000 a year.
feel like I feel like that's wild. because it's like you gotta find the job that's gonna pay you like something, but at the same time, like the transferable skills and like all of the different hats that a creative can wear, uh, it can lead to burnout, and you got to know how to manage your time and your energy so that as you try to get to that $60,000 bag, it's like you're not compromising your own health in the community, because that's not going to be good for nobody either.
But the demand for skill sets is so high, and the climate of our culture today makes exactly what you're saying almost impossible to refuse, right? Especially when everything has a price tag on it, and you need that bag so you can get that studio time, so you can get these art supplies, so you can make it to that convention, so you can be seen, so you can fly out to get that for that gig, for that audition that you booked. So when you're talking about burnout and overextending yourself, like you want to weigh those things. You want to be able to balance. So that's what I was saying in the beginning, like just like overall, like having and seeking balance. That's one of like the to me, it seemed like as one of the major things that an artist can face, right? Like how do you choose? Because I have all
Right.
these gifts to do this, that, and that, but if I'm not careful, I can face burnout, overextension, you know, overexerting myself and just dying out, unfocused, um,
Mm.
all these different things, right? Which is why like platforms like this and organizations like Older Dream is amazing at what you all do and so necessary for our artists right now in this climate, because is you guys offer like so many like different resources, and even if it's just a simple resource to say, hey, do you know where I can find, if it's just pointing, or support, showing up to someone's show or an event, um, is exceptional support. How do you balance those things, right? So I'm gonna sell some stuff. All right, I'm
Right.
gonna sell some juices, I'm gonna move everything just to make.
Yeah.
And then,
I
like
think
Jill said a few moments ago, how do you not risk burning out?
right. Well, I think, I mean, we're hosted on the Artist Exchange podcast, which Nate is behind the scenes like helping us out. And we had a conversation with him, and he was like, be careful of like just signing up and volunteering for everything. Like, like y'all have to be careful about your energy and where you're exposing energy to. Cause we were like, oh yeah, we want to volunteer here. We want to volunteer here. We just trying to, and they was like, hold on now. Cause you're going to burn out real quick. Like slow it up, slow it up. So it was like, that was just a good lesson to learn. Like, okay, let's slow down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Like,
If
let's
can y'all hear
really,
me?
give of our time and energy to things and organizations that gonna pour back into us. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's literally the whole thing around being poor artists. Like, we're trying to think of like, how can we pour into others, but then also be poured into, so that it's reciprocal kind of relationships. Like, I mean, I think the Artist Exchange podcast being something that pours into us and us to have this opportunity, so then we can, learn these things and like be able to pour to somebody else and be like, hey, we tried this thing out. Like, these are the things to think about, like, and then the things you're doing at Rich Juice Bar, like teaching these youth like how to be business owners because you've learned it and pouring back into them. So it's like, that's energy that I'd rather spend time for than just people being extractive of my labor. Right.
It will work.
And right.
Uh,
So
Just
it's
a
just,
real quick,
yeah.
Bridget. What you all are talking about? I literally just had a 3 hour workshop on today, and it amazes me how much non-artists don't understand the work that goes into our day. I think many of them think we're just on call for whatever creative integrated work they need. and the list of things that we have to do, whether you be a teaching artist or you're doing facilitation or you're working like a regular non-creative job, just to benefact all the other stuff that you do or supplement rather all the things that you do. But it's a very valuable conversation in that I think people don't realize how much goes into our day, just a day. And if they get that understanding, I think they would value us more and pay us more accurately. That's my 2 cents.
We love it.
Yeah, I think we try to, top three things artists say they need to build a sustainable practice. One, money. Two, patrons connections. Three, time and space. And that was kind of like, I think, as we're thinking about the work that we're doing for Older Dream, it's like we need resources. Like we need financial resources. We want to be able to have what we're calling the Poor Artist Mutual Aid Fund. So just like, some artists can't even get into a studio or get to a rehearsal practice because they're like, oh, I need gas money. I need groceries. I need these things. So it's like money. We need money to be sustainable. We have things to think about. And then if we get to a level of being sustainable, which I didn't get a chance to pull some of those numbers, but like I think New York is trying it out where they're just trying to have like a basic living wage for artists in the city. I think the UK is doing it where they have just like a basic living wage for creatives.
I
And
saw
it's like, what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what if, like the US really started to think about like, can we just at least get a basic living wage?
I saw that. I saw that
Money.
conversation was being had in different states and here in the States. So that's gonna come with a lot of other strings.
What would y'all want y'all's basic living wage to be? What's like that bottom number? That just because you say you're creative, you have a creative practice, what would that number be for you?
I think a basic living wage, and this is I'm for me, but for like across the board. I'm thinking, let's say our federal government had the resources to give each household at least $1,200 to $1,500 a month, right? That might be most people say 1,000, but $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and that'd be like and then that's able to go towards your whatever you needed, your basic life necessities, right? If you whatever they are, because if you think about what it costs to live, and this just is to maintain just a residence, that's like that wouldn't be maybe a half, and for some people it'll be all, but that's all you could do. So I would say, well, maybe like $1,000 or something like right there, not too much, but here, and that's just being reasonable. And yeah, I know some people get like $400 a month from like the Department of Social Services, and I'm like, how are these folk living off of 400 and something dollars a month, right? I guess I would $7,500 a month. Like, oh yeah, imagine like the federal government writing a $7,500 check. I can imagine them writing a $1,200 check. Never imagine. They'd be so deep in you for $7,500. It'd be my rights as artists. Yeah, they'd have them all. What you think, Joe?
Thinking like $10,000 a month.
I love it.
I need that.
Get your wages.
I need that. That's how much. That's how much I imagine the dope boys looking to make. You know what I mean? Doing the wrong thing. So it's like,
Oh,
what? You know what I mean? Like, I need options here. So if we talking about a living wage, I'm gonna just put my number out there, like 10,
an
like
actual
10, like 10 of them.
One that we can get checked off.
Yeah.
one that we can get that's gonna work. A bill that we can get passed.
So
Absolutely.
the last little part of like things I wanted us to kind of talk through, um, bring it. We've talked about some national statistics. We talked about our personal experiences, and I thought it was helpful to. There are two things, particularly for Older Dream. I'm a part of Be More Empowered's inaugural business cohort on behalf of Older Dream, and we had to create a business plan. So that's been helpful. And part of it is like doing your research on like what's happening. So like me being able to be the nerd and like find all these statistics, I found like two things. One, there's the 2022 downtown partnership, like Statistic Baltimore partnership, and they're like from 2018 to 2028, there's been like $3 billion spent in arts and entertainment just downtown. And it's like half of that has already been spent, and then there's the other left of it is like projects still in planning up until 2028. So it's like there's money being filtered into just downtown. We're not talking about like the different neighborhoods. We're talking about just downtown Inner Harbor money, billions of dollars. And so it's like, well, how does that money like filter down where you have people still, and which I think it brings to the Black Arts District. They have a strategic plan. So definitely y'all, if y'all are watching, like look at their reports, and the strategic plan is something that like, again, I love strategic plan stuff. I love reports. I used to work for local government. I just like looking at reports and soaking it in and figuring out ways to like, how do I support as a community resident? So the Black Arts District strategic plan was something just like, even when I first moved to Baltimore 2.5 years ago, that was one of the first things I found that just like kept an eye on. But the top things that these artists were, the summary of the key findings they did. They had 108 people that took the survey online. 18 participants engaged in storytelling sessions, and 4 individuals participated in stakeholder interviews. And 5 major themes emerged from the data collection processes that may be of interest to the Pennsylvania Avenue Black Arts and Entertainment Districts during the strategic planning process. So marketing and community engagement, barriers to Black cultural programming, artist development and mentorship, protection of Baltimore's Black artist history, and perceptions of community safety. And I think like these 5 like key findings, if you go into the report, it kind of goes more in depth of like how people identified as an artist and what they felt about like understanding um, the I think it offered room for the Black arts district to see how they can develop a more robust marketing and community engagement strategy. So they have, for example, their Sustainable Arts Initiative, where they having an arts center that's being built, $12 million facility, and they're asking the community like, what is it like? What do you need? And I think it's funny because a lot of people, particularly for the barriers to Black cultural programming, people said that they needed a space dedicated to Black art. They wanted, there was a lot of loss of Black owned artist spaces during the pandemic, and there was a great deal of pride for the history of Black arts in Baltimore. We think about the Arts Social Club, where the Black to the Future event happens, and that being just a hub of just like art history and Black cultural history, and us being able to reinvest into the Pennsylvania Avenue, reinvest into the Arts Social Club. I know the Neighborhood Design Center helped with getting some grant monies for the Arts Social Club to go through a renovation. So it's like, right here in the city, right here in this state, we have money that is being poured into downtown. And how do we move those resources to equally distribute them so that artists can get the access and the resources that we need? And for us, as Older Dream, that's what we're like, that's our inquiry. Like, how do we connect the dots? Like, how do we fill in the gaps to make sure that this big pot of money, we're just talking about the Inner Harbor millions of dollars. We're not talking about the National Endowment for the Arts, which is a whole different thing of money that filtered down from the National Endowment for the Arts. But we're literally talking about the Downtown Partnership, Baltimore, billions of dollars being pushed into the Inner Harbor. But there are people who are still saying they need access to space. And of course, those statistics that we talked about earlier were around, Oregon performers or, other states and stuff. But if anyone has any research around, if there are artists in this state that are making less than $60,000. We don't have the exact numbers, but I would guess, because I'm making under $60,000 and I'm an artist in the city. Let's bring it here. And what things can we start to collaborate on? And so I want us to kind of talk now about like, how can we start to, next week, we're going to talk about from poor to pour. So POO to POUR. How are we getting out of this like space of scarcity to abundance? But I think we can kick off this week to do that and talk about the resources that we have available just between the three of us. So Tyra, I definitely want you to talk more about Rich Juice Bar and the things y'all are doing and pouring into the community, pouring into Cherry Hill. And Joe would love to share what resources you have. This is our section of the podcast where we talk about resources available that we know about to pour into one another.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So down here at Rich Juice Bar. So yes, we are a juice bar. We are a youth operated juice bar specifically. And we feature cold pressed juices, fresh frozen fruit smoothies. We also have wellness shots here. We do acai bowls. We also have, I like to call our, so I'm at the juice bar now, a wellness pharmacy where we have bitters and different sort of herb infused tonics and honeys and powders, just for overall wellness, detox, and immune elevation and immune health. So yeah, we are always supporting the community by just showing up at events, um, enriching the community and organizations about who we are, about nutrition, about wellness. And we love for our youth to be the forefront of that because our youth are leading this initiative as they elevate and as they evolve as well. So come on out. We're down in Cherry Hill, 630 Cherry Hill Road. If you guys are ever in the South Baltimore area, reach out to us. We love to support. Um, we are going to be having so many things coming up. We have a website now, so all of our events will be posted on our social media page, which is Rich Juice Bar. And what else do we have? Yeah, so just follow us on our website, richjuicebar.com, and for updates.
That's what's up. Community resource I wanted to talk about. Blackwater Production House has studio space available. Uh, Comes with engineering support. So if you're ever looking to record your own music, do some karaoke, anything in between, Blackwater Production House is a good place for that.
Yeah, we literally just booked a studio session there, so we're ready to get started and see what happens. I think the resource I have today, yeah, tonight the application closes for the Locally Grown Festival at Baltimore Center Stage. People who participate in the festival get paid once they are selected. So it's not an application fee, it's just an opportunity to showcase your art. And you could do workshops, you can do 8 to 10 minute performances, you can do a poetry set. It's whatever you want to do, whatever storytelling looks like for you. And the pricing, like payment can range from $100 to $1,000 depending on the type of act and the group size. So that application closes tonight at 11:59. So that's a resource to go ahead and make happen and take advantage of. And I'm trying to think. I feel like there was so much stuff happening. I mean, tonight is the Highlandtown Arts First Friday Walk. Our homies over at Creatively Mindful curated that, so definitely pull up and see the First Friday walk. And Baltimore by Baltimore is tomorrow, so we know the Black Ass Flea Market is curating that and have vendors that will be there at the Baltimore by Baltimore event tomorrow. But yeah, each week what we'll try to do, and like email us if there are like resources that y'all know about, like we'll try to share them as much as possible. If you follow us at Dream Fly Dreams, we'll just repost on our stories. We're just trying to like show and bring awareness to a bunch of different things that are happening, and we just want to make sure people have access to what's there. Our next Sunday dinner is September 24th, and so those tickets will go out soon. It's free. Pull up on us, get a plate. Tyra was there for our first one in July. And we basically was like, she's our family for life, so she can't get away. So there are 20 slots available to get a plate from us, and then we'll be announcing a ticketed series Sunday dinner that will be coming really soon when we drop that. So we'll have a discounted price for the creators, but we'll still have creative only dinners that are free and you just pull up. But the ticketed ones, we want to have like performers that have been working, coming to our events or just kind of, helping out, can just perform at those ticketed events so we can expose, you guys to the work y'all been doing. And we have an event in October called Fly Artists. And so we are looking for artists that we can curate their style, their aesthetic. You get a $200 stipend to have your look curated by Sam Smith, who's with Dressed in Motherhood or New Vintage by Sam. So if y'all looking, for a gig that you got in October or something in November, or you're just trying to just find like your, upsell, like put together your aesthetic look as an artist, let us know. We're looking for 3 artists so you can get a stipend from us to have your look curated and paid for by Oda Dream. I think that's it. Thank y'all so much. Look, we keeping this simple. We're doing 40 to 45 minutes.
I love this. The next conversation was really good.
Yeah.
Right outside my juice bar, all these folks are pulling on the door handle because anytime I'm in here and my lights are on, they expect me to be open. I mean, I get it. Oh, pulling on you, open this. But I was standing outside of the juice bar like 2 days ago, and there was this young gentleman out here. Now, we have a lot of community folk that just hang around in the neighborhood, hang around in the shopping center. You guys know how it is. And he was just going on, had his earbuds in, his AirPods in, and he was just rapping his own music. And when I tell you, this dude was out here all day just rapping, and I was loving it because it sounds so hard. And I was like, this young man had to be 22, I don't know, but it just made me so excited to just see him passionate about just kind of like, and you can just see how he was just going over his lines, and it just makes me amazing. It makes me feel amazing. So just to see that and see how passionate they are, just writing, sitting out here, writing, rapping, going over it, rehearsing is exciting. So I see a lot of that, and it's just it forward moves my passion for it. For support and initiatives like what you have going. So thank you.
You made me think of one thing that's happening next week. So we will have 2 guests, AJ, who we met with Dent Education over the summer, who's an artist who will be sharing some poetry, a part of the pour to pour kind of language shift that we're trying to do for next week. It's really just shifting and moving ahead. Like we talked about the poverty, we talked about the numbers, we talked about the mindset. Now the second half of this series is like, let's move ahead. And next week is like a share out episode of the guests are sharing their artwork next week. So we'll have AJ and we'll have Ducky Versetti, who's releasing his latest single on the podcast next Friday. So to people who are watching, definitely come out because he's going to release it on our podcast. We'll also start doing giveaways for our t-shirt drop that will happen September 29th. But you have to tune in to the podcast to get a t-shirt and to hear Ducky's latest single called MIA. So it's exclusive. But yeah, that's the end.
Hey, before we end, I just want to add in, which by the way, the t-shirts are fire. Thank you. I put my pre-order registration in.
So yeah, so that's next week. It's something to come up.
You feel so great. I love that collaboration.
Oh, Qualities. Yeah. Lee Jordan. Amazing. Shout out to Lee Jordan and Qualities. Yes. All right, y'all. See y'all next week. Get ready to hear Ducky and his latest single, MIA, and get to hear from AJ and some of their poetry. We're excited. Bye.
Tony said, how you wanna curd? Miss Tony said, how you wanna curd? Miss Tony said, how you wanna curd? What's up, what's up?